Welcome to a new post-budget episode of Budget Insights series on EY India Insights. In this episode, we discuss key union budget updates for NRIs, including changes in TCS, TDS, overseas remittances, and investment opportunities in India. Joining us is Amarpal S. Chadda, partner of People Advisory Services at EY India, who shares practical insights on what NRI should know and plan for. So, a very warm welcome to you and thank you for joining our podcast today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, to begin with, what are the aspects which individuals should be aware of under the budget 2026, specifically with the changes in TCS for overseas remittances? And additionally, what is the change for person resident outside India with respect to their expanded investment limits in Indian equity markets?
So thanks, Palvi. The budget 2026 brings welcome relief by way of reduction in TCS rates on overseas remittance, such as spending on overseas tour packages, education and medical purposes, to a flat 2%, which is down from the earlier 5% or even 20% in some cases. This significantly lowers the upfront tax burden and improves the cash flow. Another key highlight of the Budget 26 is the liberalization of the equity investment limits for persons resident outside India under the Portfolio Investment Scheme. Under this, now the individual limit has been increased from 5% to 10% in the listed Indian companies, with the overall cap being increased from 10 to 24%. This further enhances the equity participation by persons resident outside India in the Indian listed companies.
Thank you, sir. Now, how does the budget 2026 simplify the tedious procedures in a property transaction between a resident buyer and a non-resident seller?
This is an important one. Until now, when resident buyers were purchasing immovable property from a non-resident seller, the resident buyer was required to obtain a TAN, which is the tax deduction account number, solely to comply with the TDS obligations. Under the budget 2026, this requirement has been removed and replaced with a PAN-based TDS process, which will now enable faster property transactions similar to a resident-to-resident transaction.
Thank you, sir. Now, Budget 2026 has also introduced the Foreign Assets for Small Taxpayers Disclosure Scheme 2026, providing a one-time opportunity to disclose foreign assets/income. So, could you please elaborate on the proposed scheme, including people who can take advantage of the scheme?
Surely. So, Budget 2026 has introduced a very significant one-time opportunity for individuals with undisclosed foreign income or assets to regularize the non-compliance through the Foreign Assets of Small Taxpayers Disclosure Scheme 2026. In short, it's being referred to as FAST DS. Once the scheme is notified, there will be a 6-month window facilitating voluntary compliance and resolving past non-disclosures, and it will provide immunity from penalty and prosecution. Any person who is or was a resident in India in the relevant period and satisfies the conditions specified in the scheme may utilize the benefit. This will include persons who are presently non-resident or not ordinary resident, but were resident in India when the undisclosed foreign income accrued or when the foreign asset was acquired.
Thank you, sir. And now, lastly, Budget 2026 has increased the duty-free baggage allowance. So, why should people returning to India be mindful of these changes?
Yeah, this one applies to all, to you and me, whoever travels overseas. So, Budget 2026 has brought some welcome news for travelers returning to India, mostly linking it to inflation, but among the other changes, introduced a revised baggage rule which has increased the duty-free allowance for different categories of passengers. Under the new provisions, the duty-free allowance has been revised from 50,000 rupees to 75,000 rupees, And this is applicable for Indian residents returning from abroad, foreigners holding a valid visa other than a tourist visa, and tourists of Indian origin. But one needs to remember, for tourists of foreign origin, the duty-free allowance is different, which was earlier 15,000 and which has been increased to 25,000. This higher limit provides greater flexibility and hence critical for the people traveling to India. It is important for them to be aware of these baggage rules to utilize the enhanced limits.
Thank you, sir. Now that brings us to the end of this episode. So thank you so much for joining us in this post-budget episode of Budget Insights series on EY India Insights.
Thank you, Palvi, for hosting me.
Thank you. And thank you to all our listeners. We hope you found the discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more expert perspectives on budget developments. Until next time, this is Pallavi signing off.